Fatherlessness. You mentioned it. You brought it up. How does this impact the millennial generation?
Well, I think because for the first time we have a generation where fatherhood has become optional. And the percentage of households now that have an everyday biological father in the house has shrunk considerably. The statistics don't come to mind immediately. But if you remember in previous generations, there was a show even called Father Knows Best. That whole concept is almost completely outlawed at this point because you can't say that anymore because fatherhood's become optional, a man in the house has become optional. But what we don't understand are what the implications are of not having a father to raise his children. Because some of the standards, some of the things that we took for granted in previous generations have completely fallen off now. Fatherless households achieve less economically, achieve less professionally. They tend to be bigger candidates for poverty. Just a whole ream of things come out if the father is
Let me say something about that real quickly. I'm going to come to you in a second. But I just want to say, because a lot of people, because I hear this conversation all the time, people say, oh, well, that's just so ancient and that thought, that sort of thing, right? But
still, that's part of the problem.
I didn't say that.
We keep saying, no. We keep saying that those traditional values are old.
Yes.
But the old school was there for a reason.
Exactly.
Those were the traditions that were really the pillars that everything else was standing on.
And I think my point, and I'll just say this quickly, is that there are a few. No. And I want to come to you, Nick, but I want to say real quickly, whether you agree with that or not is immaterial. There are a few keys to success historically in America that have been sort of that you come to America and you're a part of it, whatever, and you want to sort of be successful. There have been a few check marks, right? Yeah. And family has been one of them. Entrepreneurship, education, etc. But we're starting to pull from those. That's all I wanted to add.
And that's where I was going with it. You said keys to success historically in the United States. Just keys historically, or keys to success historically throughout time. If you look at the templates around the world that have been established, the families and authoritarians trying to keep things a certain way, things have been tested out in time. And this generation is pulled away from the template. And what ends up happening, you pull out of the template, now you're free thinking, and that's all great, but you're maneuvering and you're moving on your own. And that's what we're seeing as a problem. But can you ask someone that's got a higher potential to think in a template and force them to be in a box?
That's an interesting question.
That's the other side of the argument.
I think what's going to happen is we're going to come back to the box in about 30, 40, 50 years.
That's right. Yeah, when we've actually gone in and found out, we tested all this stuff out.
Or modify it, because even religion, people say, well, religion this, religion that, and I always say religions, if you look at them all, they're very similar and they try to accomplish the same thing.
I would disagree with that, but go ahead.
By the way, they try to get one thing, to get you to a certain point. And each one does it a little different way, but you got to follow the program, and you got to stick with that whole program. And if it's, if you're Muslim, you follow, that template. If you're Christian, you'll do this one. If you're Buddhist, you'll do another one.
That's a whole other show. But your point, socially,
no template, you got a whole issue.
And I think you're right. Absolutely.
But see, here's the deal. And also, I want to bring it back to looking at this from that fatherless child. Let's look at it through that kid's eyes. Now all of a sudden I'm 12, 13, 14 years old. I don't have a father. The streets are now my father. So now I have to go by the laws and the rules of the streets, which means what? I have to fend for myself. I have to do for myself. I have to find everything on my own. Henceforth I have to become a narcissist because I don't have that father there.
But to the point, we work in academia. Academia really is heavily to blame for the moral relativism, the secularism that is sort of come through this generation, and that they have begun to believe and buy into the individualism that has also been a part of that. So I think we fed some of this, and now we're seeing what happens when the kids eat the food.
But don't forget, individualism came out of Anglo-American culture after World War II, especially with the United States, and then media, computers, and all this TV. Is spread around the world, where in the past it couldn't spread even under the British quite as much. And so I think you're seeing some of that because cultures of the past were not so their cultures were not based so much on individualism.
Right. It was more community driven. It was much more
It was, and we're done again. Who will continue, just not on TV.
On Twitter.
On Twitter, right. Facebook, yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.